Most men want more clarity, more respect, more control over their lives, but few know how to get it. Welcome to the Bro Coach Podcast with Dennis Procopio, the founder of Man Up Life Coaching and the man behind thousands of transformed lives. Not red pill, not therapy, just the evolved man's blueprint for strength, presence, and purpose.
Hey guys, I'm Dennis Procopio, and you are here with me on the Bro Coach Podcast. This is Season 2, Episode 9. We will be talking today about what happens in a male life coaching session. What goes on behind closed doors? What is this thing called life coaching, and why is it something that I should possibly consider as an alternative to clinical therapy? Now, this is a solo cast. You will be flying solo with me today. Well, wait, I guess if we're flying together, then we're not really solo. But I will be flying solo. My co-host, Charles Ledbetter, is off doing his thing. And I am going to be talking to you as the owner of Man Up Life Coaching about my experiences coaching guys over the past almost 14 years now. I like to tell people that I have more than 25,000 hours of experience doing this. And frankly, I'm an OG in this space. In 2013, when I started life coaching for men, my SEO was incredible. There was no such thing. Now, does that mean that men never thought to coach each other in the areas of wellness and betterment? Of course not. That's absurd. In fact, I like to remind people that in the late 1800s at Harvard, the behavioral sciences, as we call them now, became a radical new idea that was an offshoot of the Harvard philosophy department. But there was no such thing as psychology, psychiatry, family counseling, and all of these things that we have now as societal tools that we accept under the blanket of medicine and peer-reviewed science. Long before that was a thing, men have historically coached, taught, mentored other men, and this goes all the way back to, whatever you can, as far as you can go back, because men learn how to be men from other men. That's kind of the way our hive brains work. The guy who pisses on the third rail and gets electrocuted teaches the group, you probably don't want to do that. The guy who creates a turkey call and the turkey comes and then he kills it and eats it has now provided information for the whole group. And that's the way we historically learn. Now, in this day and age, one of the challenges that many men have is that there has been a I don't want to say contamination, a corruption. That's a good word. There's been a corruption of this historical teaching process where the men in the village, the elders or whatever, pass along critical values, both through oral tradition and through modeling appropriate behavior to younger guys. It's become corrupted because we have a societal explosion globally, and people are doing what people do. Entropy is taking over. It's turning into a sort of chaos of what if? What if I dye my hair blue? What if I join the military? What if I cut off my genitals and start taking estrogen? What if? What if I want to convert to Christianity? What if my religion says X, Y, or Z about a certain topic like abortion? And so it's a lot more difficult for men to read off of a script that says, hey, this is the way we've always done it, with a few modifications and a few upgrades. It's really hard to do that. So if you live in the US, which I do, for instance, even though I have clients everywhere, so I have clients literally in all time zones, but the West is so influential on global culture that some of these things still apply. If you live in the West, as I do, you will notice that masculinity is very much under attack. I just have to say it the way it is. I would like to say we're in conversations about masculinity and what it means, but no, it's more aggressive than that. There is, from what I see, a concerted effort to emasculate strong men. And there is an argument that this makes us easier as a society to program. It makes it easier to program our kids if there's no conflict between who should I listen to, my strong and stubborn dad who says, I'm a man and this is the way it goes and that's the way we've always done it, or if my dad is a simp who tucks his dick and says, well, gee, maybe you're right, honey. Maybe masculinity is toxic. Maybe I should be a male feminist. Dude, no, I'm sorry. That's not the way to go. I'm not a super conservative, super right-leaning anything. Don't get it twisted, but nor am I a super liberal. I'm somewhere pretty staunchly in the center on most things. But I draw the line at taking away the foundational male identity as a critically important part of the family structure and how societies move forward. So when we talk about what happens in a male life coaching session, I think it's critically important, before we get into all of that, which we will, I think it's important to lay a foundation, because one of the questions you're going to get is, why is there a gender difference? Why can't it just be people coaching? Why do you have to put so much emphasis on this man thing? Why is it called man up? What is the built-in sort of, gender shaming built into your brand that seems to imply that if you don't do things the alpha way, that you're some, like I said, some simp, beta, pussy, bitch boy? Why does that have to be there? How is that conducive to being, a healthy, diplomatic member of society, rather than just, pushing the agenda of the patriarchy? Okay, well, let's talk about it. In the story of the world as we know it, and I'm saying that because if you're a member of my organization or my community, or if you find yourself living in the Man Up Life Coaching ecosystem for long enough, you will discover that spirituality is our meta. and everything is framed from that meta perspective. And that's important because, as I say, literally every episode, a man will spend his life trying to answer two questions. Who am I and why am I? Who am I is a question of identity. Why am I is a question of purpose. And efforts to answer these two questions are why we have philosophy, are why we have conflict, and arguably why we have wars. But a man, being this ape staring at, a skull in the vast, if not infinite universe, pondering existence, is very relatable for any man who is forced to look at the bottomless chasm of existential dread and say, okay, I want to know. I want to understand. I am not content to be told we're born as babies, we're raised, we do social stuff because people tell us to, and then we die, and what happens after that, nobody knows, so we all just make shit up. No guy really wants to hear that. So we're willing to deal with the scary, no matter how scary the scary is, rather than to just live with blinders on and say, yeah, sure, this makes sense. And so that's where a man really tries to rationalize who he is in the scope of humanity, because, society is a thing. And who we are in the big, if not infinitely big picture. So when I get a guy who is a client who comes to me and says, I'm potentially interested in working with you, here are some things I can tell you about that guy. And this is just my avatar. So I'm not telling you, I do not speak for all would-be men's life coaches. I speak for my avatar. In 2013, after having significant life, I'm 55 right now. So in my early 40s, after having significant experience with trauma, with abuse, with both failure and success, academic success, creative success, dating success, against all odds, and having made myself a successful person in spite of the fact that therapy didn't work for me, and therefore I was forced to find male mentors in the wild. In spite of all of that, I was able to document and cobble together a system that is proprietary, which I paid the iron price for, with the scars to prove it, to use Game of Thrones parlance. And I nervously, but still excitedly and confidently launched the brand Man Up Life Coaching so that I could offer to others what was not there for me when I needed it. And I saw this need in 2013. This is before the male loneliness epidemic of 2026. This is before life got radically weird with the brazen attacks on masculinity, white men in particular, but really all men by default. Gender identification became a giant topic despite only affecting a minuscule portion of the population. And the next thing you know, men more than ever are saying it's getting harder to answer the questions, who am I and why am I in this landscape? So I created Man Up Life Coaching. Again, I will emphasize, nothing like this existed. Tony Robbins, yes, but otherwise, no. Google any male life coach, and they did not exist when I started this shit. I'm telling you. And yeah, it's a fucking flex. I feel like I have the right to say that. Now, do I think I'm better than other life coaches? No, I do not. Do I think I'm unique? Yes, I do. And do I feel like I am one of the giants whose shoulders many others who have followed me are standing on? Abso-fucking-lutely. You better believe it. I am the Helio Gracie of this thing, and I'm just saying, while there are many other ways to learn BJJ, when you work with someone who is mentored under that pedigree, that lineage, you're getting something good. So what you're going to hear from me today in this very candid episode is, this is what men's life coaching either is or frankly could be, and arguably in many cases should be. So a man who is my demographic, so he's between the ages of 20 something and 60 something. Although caveat, I was an educator for years, and so I do work with teens. Occasionally, a guy will say, "Hey, my son could really stand to work with you. I can vouch for him. Will you do it?" We sign the paperwork, and I shut my mouth and I do it. I'm also going to tell you something super weird here, and I don't even know if I should tell you this, but I trust the voices. Over the years, I have had the opportunity to work with guys whose relationships were on fire, dude. And I have a very long client retention. I have clients who have been with me for 10 years. So even though the average turnaround for a client is 12 to 24 months, I have clients who have been with me anywhere from 1 year to, in a couple of cases, going on more than 10 years. The explanation for that is, I like the BJJ analogy. If someone has the money and wants to train, the argument is you'll spend more time training if you stick with BJJ or any other martial art. You'll spend more time as a black belt than you will as any other belt. And when you get that belt, you don't stop training, you keep training. So I have guys who have been with me who are interested in a black belt in life as a man, and I have plenty to teach. So that said, the average guy comes here knowing he's going to be here for 12 to 24 months. My strongest demographic tends to be early 30s to early 50s. Those are my guys. They are usually here because they are straight guys, heterosexual, whatever you want to say. They like women. And I mean, some dudes come out as bi, some dudes come out as gay. I've worked with gay clients. And as I was just about to say, I do work with women in the sense that when a guy's been with me for long enough, if he's having relationship problems, I'll bring the woman into the session or sessions and do relationship counseling. And in a couple of very rare instances, I've worked with a vetted wife or daughter. But usually it's a straight dude who either wants a girlfriend or wants to get married, wants to have kids or has kids, or maybe can't have kids but wishes he has kids. But it's guys who are straight dudes who are interested in living with a woman, and having like a family, although some of my clients don't have kids, but maybe they have a dog or whatever. And some of the things that are driving them to coaching are maybe they don't love their job and they realize that it's unsustainable, and so they want to move to a different job. Maybe they want to stay within their organization, but they want to move up and they've plateaued and they don't know how to get promoted or make a move laterally somewhere else in the company. Example, a guy who's a project manager decides he wants to be a product manager, but he doesn't have any experience, so we'll help with that. Maybe it's a guy who, I have a lot of software engineers and data scientists, so maybe it's a guy who is looking to hedge his bets against what he perceives to be the threat of AI taking his job. So maybe it's a guy has an enterprise level flooring company, which is actually a thing. I have a lot of clients, and he's trying to decide, do I grow this business or do I sell it and go back to school and get a degree in something interesting for me and sort of reinvent myself? So one of the things that will bring a guy to coaching is uncertainty about the stability of his job or unfulfillment with his career. And a lot of my guys have a lot of money, so they have maybe these platinum handcuffs because they're working a job that if they were to leave, they could not very easily just jump into that situation. Also, tangentially, a lot of my guys are interested in doing something entrepreneurial. For instance, I have a surgeon who probably makes about $750,000 to $1 million a year on a good year. And he's been doing it forever. He's my age, he's in his 50s. But he's also a health enthusiast, a fitness enthusiast. Dude's absolutely jacked, in the best shape like you could possibly imagine. Is an awesome dude. And he came to me because he wants to start an influencer brand that removes him from the grind of the medical environment and allows him to do something that sort of follows his passion, which is to help others. All of these are things we'll talk about in coaching, and those are under the vertical of career, job security, making money, and or following your passion. Do I live to work or do I work to live? Another thing that men come to life coaching for, real low-hanging fruit here, is they might just have bad habits that they're trying to substitute with some new upgraded habits, and their accountability isn't there. So after the guy who is 60 pounds overweight has read every book, been on YouTube videos, listened to podcasts, tried everything from carnivore to keto to paleo diets, or just timing your meals or one meal a day or whatever, and nothing sticks. And now he starts telling himself, I think I have a food addiction, which, by the way, is a term I freaking hate. You're not addicted to food, moron. You literally need it to live. You have a compulsive behavior associated with comfort eating. That's a different thing. You're not addicted to food. You're addicted to cocaine. You're not addicted to food. Anyway, sorry, sidebar. So that guy, for instance, might hire a coach because he finally wants to get down to sub 200, let's say, or sub 180, depending on his height. But he'll come here and discover, oh, wow, there's all this other stuff that we cover. Holy shit, this should be mandatory education for men. Why isn't this a thing? Well, we're working on it, bud. Quitting smoking, quitting gaming, getting off the couch and putting the weed pen away and stopping the doom scrolling and being more productive with your time, even if it's your evenings, your weekends, waking up earlier in the morning, just shit habits. You know, so a guy will do 75 hard and be like, yeah, I did a thing. But then a year later, he's back to this same crap. And what he doesn't know is that there are usually underlying or foundational reasons that he is choosing these escapist habits or sort of low yield activities. So in Man Up Life Coaching, one of the things we'll discuss is how do you spend your time, and do you feel that you are spending your time optimally with regard to your goals? Now, I want to put a caveat in here before I move to the next vertical, which is relationship. The caveat is a lot of guys have been conditioned to equate productivity with value, which means the higher you jump, the faster you run, the nicer your car, the hotter your wife, the better your kid's school, etc. These are all achievements that a guy wants to unlock so that he can get optimal social approval. Sort of, you don't have to like me, but you will respect me, motherfucker, type of vibe. And that usually shows up most in people who conflate self-worth and self-esteem. And again, if you've ever listened to one of my sessions, or podcast episodes, or, checked out any of my content on socials, you'll hear this as a theme. We men are conditioned, we are groomed to understand that we should be performers, providers, protectors. It's the 3 P's of being a dude. And if you fail in those areas, you are a shitty husband and father by these OG societal standards. However, I should say, and on the other hand, if you absolutely crush in those areas, then you can walk around like a big swinging dick and go, yeah, that's right. Who's your daddy? See that 7,000 square foot house? I bought that for you. See that freaking 500,000 a year to 1 million a year paycheck I'm bringing in? That's who your daddy is. Right. I could do this all day. It's just stuff, basically. Stuff. Guys telling themselves, yeah, that's who I am. But then dudes will come to me in session. And again, this is the part that I sort of wanted to share for you, because maybe you're not there yet and you think that that's the solution to your problem, is to be more productive because your productivity is associated with your value. The dudes who are trying to make self-esteem their North Star, which is to say how they look extrinsically. These are guys who end up coming here saying, I'm unhappy, I feel unfulfilled. And it's very common to hear, and you'd be surprised when I tell you this, but it's very common to hear either fantasies of wanting to sell all their stuff and just, go travel the world barefoot with a stick and a rice bowl and a small backpack, like, David Carradine and Kung Fu, or like basically embrace a monastic existence and go full spiritual and just get rid of the trappings of stuff, because nobody told them that when you have a lot of money and a lot of stuff, if you don't do it right, you don't own the money owns you. You don't own the stuff owns you. Just for an example, talk to anybody who owns a boat or horses or a vehicle like a Jeep or a motorcycle that they're constantly modifying. That compulsion to keep making it better and better and better and better, which means that you need more money, which means that you need more time. That's the hedonic treadmill you're always hearing about. And you end up with wives and kids who say things like, I don't know where you got the idea that this is what we wanted or needed, but all we ever really wanted was for you to be a loving husband and dad who was able to provide basic necessities, but who was also respectful, empathetic, and present. And that's where dudes come in and say, bro, I got duped. What the fuck? I've spent my whole life chasing paper, and now I'm listening to my wife tell me that she has years of resentment because we don't have a romantic relationship where she feels loved and respected and appreciated. I have kids who say, you were never present. I envy my friends who have dads who went to their stuff, or their whatever intramural crap or soccer games or volleyball or BJJ or whatever. I don't feel like we have a close relationship. I don't feel like we've really ever talked about anything critical. Do you even know who I am? And so here's a dad who broke his butt to provide everything that he thought would make him a winner and give him a sense of value because of his high self-esteem. And instead, he's finding out that he's being criticized for not having been loving and empathetic and respectful and present. And he realizes that his self-worth, which is intrinsic and is his, how he feels in life, how he feels about people, how he feels in his own skin, is kind of shit and always has been. And he just compensated for it by making himself the man, right? Just make yourself the boss. You don't like me, I'll fire you, So that brings us to our next vertical, which is relationship. Dude, I'll tell you, women and children keep me in business, because when dads do finally start Googling life coach for men, which, by the way, I've been around long enough that I literally own the domain malelifecoach.com. But anyway, when dudes start Googling life coach for men, it's because either they went to therapy and they sat around and they talked about their feelings, which is not what men do. We like solutions first. Then we'll happily tell you about what our feelings were after we solved the problem. Our feelings were, I felt like shit, obviously. And I didn't really want to talk about it because that just made me feel like more shit. I really just wanted to solve the problem. I'm not making money. I don't want to talk about how that makes me feel. I want to talk about how to get a job and make money. But when it comes to something that doesn't have an obvious fix, like your wife is saying that she feels unsafe in your relationship, that she doesn't feel safe communicating with you, that's one that makes guys go, what are you talking about? You feel unsafe. We live in a gated community. I got a gun safe. Like, nobody's coming to hurt you. And she's saying, no, you don't get it. I don't feel emotionally safe to tell you how I feel because I feel like you're going to shut me down, defend yourself, be avoidant, tell me I'm stupid, get angry. And then so eventually I start becoming exactly what I never wanted to be, the naggy bitch wife, because nothing else works. So one of the things that we talk about a lot in our coaching sessions week over week is how to understand the difference. And there is a difference. How to understand the difference between how women historically process information, which means that you have to understand the female perspective, which is then going to change your perceptions. We have to learn that, and nobody has ever encouraged us to learn it in a way that is interesting for us. I mean, a guy will go to a game coach to learn how to get all the pussy, but he won't go to a counselor that'll teach him how to be the guy that women trust, respect, like, and love. He won't do that. And so that's where the wife says, I'm going to leave you if you don't go to a therapist. So then the guy goes to a therapist and he's like, this is just years of me lying on the couch, telling you about my mother, telling you how I feel, coming out feeling like even more shit. And all the while not feeling like I've learned anything about you, like we've developed any kind of a relationship. And frankly, feeling like you think poorly of me. That's just in the room. I can't pretend I don't feel that. Or he goes to counseling and couples counseling, and I will tell you right now, and this is a hill I will die on, couples counselors 100% for straight couples, 100% play to the female. They do, because when men have been forced to take accountability that women have not, women will offer histrionic subterfuge and flame you on Yelp and Google and all kinds of shit. Whereas men will just, at the worst thing a guy will do is go, yeah, I'm not really sure I'm feeling this therapy, and he'll stop going, which is what happens. That's what eventually happens. Eventually He sits there and listens to how everything's his fault and he's a piece of shit for long enough, even from dude therapists and couples counselors. And he's like, man, you're throwing me under the bus. I get it, but I thought you would show a little solidarity over here. And there's the couples counselor doing some real good tap dancing, like, well, we just need to make sure everybody, is feeling heard and seen. But in his heart of hearts, that dude goes home at night going, sorry, chief, you had to take one for the team there because I'm not fucking with your crazy wife. Like, between you and me, I would have never married her. I can tell you, if you want to know what the whole point of this is, to tell you, this is what happens behind the scenes. This is what goes on. These are all my colleagues. I know what people talk about, man. I'm telling you. Does this mean that there are no good couples therapists out there? No. There are great couples therapists out there who are female. There are great couples therapists out there who are male. And there are great couples therapists out there who don't identify as ... and have their own pronouns and genders and identity and all of that. I don't live in that world. I respect it, but I don't live in that world. It's not applicable. But I just want to make sure I'm clear. I am not suggesting that to fix your marriage, you have to have a male counselor. I'm just telling you, luck of the draw. Most of my guys come to me because therapy, clinical therapy, did not solve the problems that they're trying to solve, and in their relationships or in their lives. And relationship counseling didn't give them tools that were ultimately sustainable. It didn't radically transform the relationship in any meaningful way.
Hey man, stop spinning your wheels. If you're serious about leveling up your career, your relationships, and your mindset, it's time to man up. At Man Up Life Coaching, we cut the excuses and build discipline, confidence, and purpose. Book your free strategy session now at manuplifecoaching.com/application. Don't fill it out if you're not ready to grind, but if you are, this call could change your life. Man Up Life Coaching, elite life coaching for men by men.
So the thing that we talk about here is we talk about how to get you to recognize the different types of empathy, because that's not even discussed. Cognitive empathy, affective empathy, or compassionate empathy, where the first is basically more like sympathy. Oh, your dog died? That sucks. Sending you good vibes. Affective empathy. Oh my God, your dog died? I can't. My heart. I'm going to cry. Now we're both need ice cream or whatever, or a therapist. And then compassionate empathy, which is, oh my God, my heart hurts. Your dog died. I can't. We're going to, let's do something. Let's go out and go to the whatever they call the pound these days, the SPCA, the animal rescue shelter, and let's just browse. We don't have to get a new dog, but let's just look. Maybe it'll make us feel better. So the cognitive therapy person is the person who says, yeah, that sucks. I get it, but I can't let it affect me because I still have to do I have a life to live. Doctors are that way. If every doctor were so incredibly affected by the sad truth that their patient just blew their arm off with fireworks or whatever, they'd be sitting there weeping. Like Doctors Without Borders. You can't just go to Gaza and sew kids' body parts back together, and while you're listening to the fact that they lost 4 brothers and sisters in the rubble of a freaking, bombing. You can't let that affective empathy keep you from doing your job. So men have a tendency to lean more into cognitive empathy at best. Or if we lean into the direction of compassionate empathy, which is to say, ow, that feels bad. I'm feeling it with you. Hey, let's do something about it. They lean too much into the engineer, Mr. Fix It part of the show, and not enough into the, hey, this hurts. Let's sit with it and just acknowledge that it sucks. I'm the father of a 16-year-old son with profound autism, level 3, and dwarfism. So trust me when I tell you, I have historically done the best that I can to understand his experience rather than to just try to fix it. But it's a challenge because I'm a dude. And that's the way I'm wired. So your wife or girlfriend and or kid or kids are looking for you not only to be protective, provident, and performative, they're also looking for you to respect the way that they experience the world, to have empathy and share feelings with them and actual present experiences, right? And they're looking for you to be absorbed in the present while you're sharing life with them rather than constantly distracted, which you probably are, because one, you got your mind on your money and your money on your mind. Two, you're worried about your health and your fitness and the fact that you're supposedly a, whatever, electrically charged ape living on a rock in the middle of infinite space, and you're just supposed to deal with that and not question it, and also not use escapist habits to make the existential dread go away. And then on top of that, she wants to have the lover that she's reading about in her, romantic literature or fantasizing about after watching some rom-com. And you're saying, dude, no wonder people just fucking kill themselves because, really, what about me, man? I'm just a dude trying to hang out. Can't I just have peace and everybody just be nice? Why is there so much pressure? And then when you say that, you get told, you're a toxic male. We live in a patriarchy. You suck. Boo. You're the bad man. You're going, oh, okay, sorry, I'm bad. Here's all my money. Sorry, I'm bad. Let's do everything you want. Sorry, I'm bad. Guess I got to go to this wedding. Sorry, I'm bad. Guess I have to not only host a kid's party, but pay for it. So we talk about that, bro. Another vertical, I'm keeping an eye on time here. I'm at 47 minutes. Another vertical is your happiness. Somewhere along the way, and this is the therapy piece, somewhere along the way, a little boy turned into a big boy in a man's body and lifestyle. But I'm here to out you and to say that your father wound, your mother wound, those still have an effect on how you show up for yourself, the type of scripting you do, the type of talk that you do to yourself, whether you tell yourself limiting things like, I want to do that, but I could never, it's too hard, I'm not smart enough, I'm too old, I don't have the money, excuses. And or if you say it's because, and then start rattling off all the things that have happened to you in your life and get into a kind of a victim modality and tell yourself, I could have had this if blah, 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 blah. And I call that shit scripting. You're running this shit script. And if you run shit scripts for long enough, you will discover that the way the brain works is you will reinforce neural pathways that make the things that you're saying come true. And anytime I talk about any of this sort of manifestation stuff, I'm aware of the fact that I'm going to have to be careful and try to present it scientifically as much as possible, because when you present it in any way that starts to sound a little woo-woo, that's in male life coaching, that's where you lose your audience. Unless you have a dude who's a total woo-woo magical thinker, and then you got to grab his kite string and pull him down to earth and say, look, dude, manifestation is cool, but there's also just good old-fashioned discipline. Set your alarm, get up, and do your job. If you're inspired, great. If you're not, it's still your fucking job. So, so the therapy piece is getting you to audit, which is where it's really good to have a coach, to audit your self-talk. If I share an hour a week in a Zoom session with a guy, I'll notice that he's a shallow breather. I'll notice that dude is like white knuckling everything he does. I'll notice that he's tight and up tense and maybe has a little PTSD. I'll immediately ask him if he, has a military background, or if he works in a high pressure job like finance or air traffic control, or something where he has a very narrow margin for failure. And so dude is walking around stressed all the time. If I see that, that helps me to know from experience, this is a guy who holds himself to a very harsh standard for success. He does not let himself fail. And when he does, he's brutally self-abusive. And he therefore projects that same expectation onto others and is viciously judgmental, either high key or low key, when men don't meet his expectation. I'm going to be honest with you and tell you I'm that way. I have to work really hard. As much as I lean into my own business, when I have a business exchange with someone else and they are lackadaisical, non-communicative, unprofessional, dude, I want to rip them a new asshole. I want to go to every Google review and Yelp and everything and just crucify them. I don't, but I do have to fight that feeling. And if that's me, the guy who's teaching you how to be a black belt in this, saying that it's chronic and I still have to imagine it, it should make you feel a little bit more justified in the fact that you're out there feeling the same way. There are other people who have the opposite problem. They are sort of stuck in the middle. Their life isn't hard enough to make them feel like there's any pressure to succeed. So there's no real impetus to change. So they're just kind of in a fog. They're just coasting. But time is passing. They're aware of it, and they're starting to feel like, I feel like I'm wasting my life a little bit here. I should do something. And that's the guy that I get him in session and tell him how much I cost. And he's like, oh, well, let me think about it. And I'm like, yeah, you're going to think about it and you're not going to do anything. And I have to try to hard sell him because he doesn't have anybody pushing him. So we talk about you getting out of your self-judgment and judgment of others and replacing that with self-validation, which in self-help has historically been called affirmation, but I don't use that term. I use the term validation because in my world, you're either judging or you're validating. There's no third thing, right? It's either you suck or you're awesome. And even if you say you're in the middle, like, I don't really care, this is fine. That's not true. You're saying it's not fine, but what you'll discover is that you're actually repressing and quarantining all of your big thoughts and feelings. And that is putting a drag coefficient on your machine. And that's why you're slowing down and everything feels heavy and everything feels hard. And you're like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just tired. And then you start to worry that you're lazy, but you're neither of those things. And that's something we discuss. You in coaching in my coaching, learn how to father your inner child. You tell your inner child, your drawings are wonderful. No, don't quit your day job. If you want to be a public speaker, you go for it, even if you're shy and you have a lisp. If you want to dress a certain kind of way and it seems a little, extravagant or flashy, dude, it doesn't matter. There's no rule that says this is what men wear. Do you you're allowed to be creative. If you want to put an angry grill on your Jeep, then fuck the haters. Put an angry grill on your Jeep. Let your inner child play. You want to wear a pink shirt and freaking orange shoes? Do you? You want to shave your head into a mohawk? Do it. You want to grow it out into dreads? Do it. There are a lot of guys out there who have a repressed inner child, and fathering your inner child in a way that is loving and kind will do a tremendous amount for you. That's why I love that I'm getting older. Like, there's some jobs where I would not want to get older, like a game coach. If I were just a game coach, there's a point at which you don't want a 70-year-old telling you, here's what you do when you encounter the vagina. It just doesn't feel right. But as a life coach who can coach your entire life, I like that I'm getting older, because the older that I get, the more of a father figure I am for a larger swath of guys. At 55, I have 40-year-olds who kind of look at me as like a surrogate dad. Hell, I have a 67-year-old right now who looks at me as a surrogate dad, because he's just a big, overgrown, freaking spoiled brat teenager in a 67-year-old body, if we're being completely honest. But my point is, you will learn how to father your inner child in this environment. That's one of the things that we do behind closed doors. And finally, and with 4 minutes to spare, spirituality. I have clients from all walks of life, Christians, and I mean all kinds of Christians, Protestants, Catholics, Baptists, Latter-day Saints, Unitarian Universalist, Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, Coptic. I have all Church of God in Christ. I have all kinds of Christians up in here. I have Jews, Hasidic Jews, Ashkenazic, Sephardic, just you name it. All the Jews. I've got all the Jews. Muslims. One of my coaches is Coach Faisal, is Kashmiri, who's been raised in Bahrain. He's shown me such a beautiful side to Islam, because we've grown. Admittedly, I grew up in a country that's pretty Islamophobic, if I'm being honest. And I have so much of a deeper understanding of Islam, and not only the beauty of Islam, but the way Islam can be corrupted by fundamentalists, just like Christianity, just like Jews who are struggling with Zionism right now. But agnostics, I have people who are like, yeah, I'm kind of more spiritual than religious. And even straight up atheists who are like, if it can't be explained scientifically, I don't want to hear it. No matter who you are, Buddhist, Zoroastrian, dude, fucking Druid, I'm telling you, I've got everybody here. No matter who you are spiritually, here at Man Up Life Coaching, one of the things that I have been blessed to be able to do over the years is to find a way to communicate to guys about how they can find their faith without them worrying that I'm going to try to indoctrinate them into some sort of a belief system that works for me. Because we don't do that. There's a fine line between a cult and a culture, and this is a culture, not a cult. So I wanted you to know this is what happens behind closed doors. There's so much more I could do episode after episode after episode. But hopefully this is enough of a little sampler for you that if the idea of life coaching is interesting for you, you will go find yourself a life coach. If you don't know somebody, I know a guy. I very strongly believe in this brand. And Charles Ledbetter, my co-host, also operates independently under his brand, Lead Better Men, just as a couple examples. So I'm not going to pitch you here. I'll just say that's a taster of what happens behind closed doors in men's life coaching. I believe in it. And our bottom line is to reduce the male suicide rate, to address the male loneliness epidemic, and to continue to heal the rift socially between men and women, men and children, and men and other men, because societies flourish when men embrace their roles as good husbands and good fathers. So that's our episode. Thanks for joining me. My name is Dennis Procopio. I am the Bro Coach. You are here on the Bro Coach podcast. This has been Season 2, Episode 9. And if you're picking up what I'm putting down, I encourage you to follow us on socials. My website is manuplifecoaching.com. If that's too much for you, you can go to malelifecoach.com. Thanks, and I'll see you on our next episode. Take care.